The old house stood on a lonely hill, silhouetted against a stormy sky. Rain lashed down as the storm front rolled in, and the wind howled around the crumbling stone walls of Blackwood Manor. Inside, a terrified young woman named Sarah huddled in the drawing room, whispering into her phone. "I can hear them again. They're getting closer." Moments later, the call went dead. Not long after that, she was found, gone. The only clue, a faint, eerie whisper carried on the wind. So what was really happening at Blackwood Manor? That's what we're digging into today. Segment 1, The Story Case File. Blackwood Manor has a history. Built in the late 1800s by a wealthy industrialist named Arthur Blackwood, the mansion was a monument to his ego. Locals whispered that Blackwood had a cruel streak, a taste for the occult, and a penchant for throwing lavish parties that often ended in scandal. But the tales really began after Blackwood's death, around the time the house started to fall into disrepair. The rumors started with strange sounds. Tales of disembodied voices murmuring through the walls, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. For decades, Blackwood Manor was abandoned, a crumbling landmark shrouded in mystery. In the 1990s, a group of college students, seeking adventure, broke into the house one night. They reported the air grew cold, the whispers grew louder, and they all felt an overwhelming sense of dread. One of the students, a young woman named Sarah, started experiencing waking nightmares. Sarah became obsessed with finding the source of the whispers. She spent hours exploring the manor, trying to decipher the murmurs. According to her online journal, the whispers seemed to be getting stronger, more focused, almost threatening. She documented strange shadows that seemed to move in the periphery, and the unsettling feeling of not being alone. Then one stormy night, Sarah vanished. Her friends reported a frantic call where she claimed the voices were closing in. Her phone was found shattered in the drawing room, and no trace of her was ever found. The only evidence was her journal, filled with cryptic notes about the whispers and the lingering, unsettling echoes of a tragedy. If any of that is true, how is any of this possible? Segment 2, Evidence and Claims. The core claim surrounding Blackwood Manor is that the walls themselves are somehow speaking. The whispers are the central mystery. So let's break down the evidence. The whispers, the main theme of all of the stories. Witnesses describe a low, unintelligible murmur, sometimes sounding like a chorus of voices, sometimes like a single voice muttering. Sarah's journal described these voices as growing increasingly coherent and even malicious. On the surface, that sounds convincing, but there's a catch. The whispers are only described in a subjective, unrecorded way. No audio recordings exist. Eerie atmosphere. Many visitors report an oppressive atmosphere, a feeling of being watched, sudden drops in temperature, and a sense of unease. This kind of experience is often cited in ghost stories. This is the oldest, most common type of evidence, and it's easy to see how people could be influenced. But again, these are subjective experiences. Vanishing and disappearances. Sarah's disappearance is the most dramatic event connected to the manor. However, there are stories of others who reportedly went missing or experienced strange events. Some locals claim that others who tried to investigate the house also vanished. However, official records tell a different story. In fact, there is no official record of anyone ever vanishing from the manor. Segment 3, Possible Explanations. So, what really lies behind the mystery of Blackwood Manor? Natural acoustics. The most likely explanation is that the whispers are a natural phenomenon. The manor's age, construction materials, and the way the wind moves around the building could create unusual acoustic effects. Certain architectural features might amplify or distort sounds, creating the illusion of voices. Wind whistling through cracks and gaps could also mimic human speech. The lack of acoustic insulation could easily transmit sounds within the structure, creating the illusion of moving voices. Psychological factors. Another possibility is that the experiences are rooted in the human mind. The history of the manor, the rumors, the stories, the setting creates a perfect environment for suggestion. People may be primed to expect unusual events, and their minds may interpret ambient sounds as whispers. The feeling of being watched can be caused by the mind's tendency to perceive patterns, even when there are none. The anticipation of a paranormal event can also trigger a state of anxiety or paranoia, which heightens the senses. Hoax or fabrication. It's also possible that the stories are simply fabricated or exaggerated. The history of the manor and the mysteries surrounding it could have been spread by local storytellers or thrill seekers. The lack of concrete evidence, recordings, objective observation, or verifiable events supports this theory. Sarah's journal could also have been embellished, particularly after her disappearance. Something else. While it's tempting to jump to conclusions, there's always the chance that something genuinely unexplainable is happening at Blackwood Manor. If the building had been used for occult activity, as the rumors suggest, it's possible that some kind of residual energy or imprint was left behind. If this were true, however, we would expect to get consistent evidence. But, as with all the out-there explanations, this is mostly speculation. Segment 4. What we actually know. So what can we say with reasonable certainty? What is known? Blackwood Manor is an old, crumbling building that has a history of local legends. There are stories of strange sounds, an eerie atmosphere, and a young woman named Sarah vanishing from the manor. The lack of corroborating evidence and the absence of any documented scientific research means we need to approach the mystery with a healthy dose of skepticism. What is unconfirmed? The whispers, the feeling of being watched, the vanishing of other visitors. There is no proof, just stories. What remains unexplained? While natural explanations are the most probable, there is no way to rule out anomalies completely. If genuine events took place at the manor, we may never know the truth. Segment 5. Takeaways and reflection. Blackwood Manor is essentially a story about stories, about how a place, a building, a single structure can become the focus of mystery and intrigue. The manor itself is a relic of the past, standing in defiance of the relentless passage of time. Of course, there might be nothing truly strange happening at Blackwood Manor, but the fact that people are still talking about it, still sharing stories, indicates that the mystery has a powerful grip on the imagination. Would you have believed it if you were there? If you enjoy deep dives into mysteries like this, hit like, subscribe, and tell me your theory in the comments.